deli in New York, and after playing Carnegie Hall, and I think James was in the band then, and James goes over and gets, James is like sitting there talking, they bring Bill, he orders a bagel and cream cheese, and James puts the cream cheese on the bagel for him. And he's sitting there kind of talking to people, and he eats the whole bagel, every bite of it. He says, I believe that's the worst donut I've ever had. But there are people in Nashville that tell that story as if Bill Monroe didn't really know that it wasn't a donut. And I've heard people in bluegrass, I've heard people tell that story, and they didn't get it. They didn't understand. He was narrow-minded in a way, because, I mean, he knew he was Bill Monroe, and that was a lot of it. One of my favorite moments, he lands in the UK, first time he went over, and in the 60s, after his whole career has been revitalized by the folk band. Because keep in mind, bluegrass music does not exist, but when bluegrass music begins to exist, Bill Monroe's working on it for a long time, but when Lester Flatt and Earle Scruggs joined Bill's band, which is, the 40s, suddenly bluegrass exists as we know it. It becomes this art form that Bill had been hinting at for a while. But he's a big star. I mean, as far as country music goes, he's in the country mainstream for that moment. And very quickly, when the powers that be started trying to take country music into a wider audience, the very first thing that went, the very first thing that went was banjo. And the next thing they started working on trying to get out was fiddle and steel guitar. Now they bring all this stuff back as long as the drums are too loud, and it's fine. And that's blamed on me a lot of the time, the drums being too loud in country music, and if that's true, I apologize. It was the fucking 80s, all the drums were loud, so, I didn't mean it. But Bill got left behind very quickly. I mean, in the Flatt and Scruggs left, for one thing. And as soon as Flatt and Scruggs leave Bill Monroe's band, then bluegrass is a genre and not just music Bill Monroe plays, and Bill Monroe did it. From that point on, singers that came to replace Lester stayed in the band on average a year, and then went out and started their own bands. And all of a sudden, it was bluegrass band after bluegrass band after bluegrass. And every one of them, including Carter Stanley, served time as a singer, as a bluegrass boy. Carter actually did it as a favor to Bill as a sub, and Bill asked him. Carter Stanley and Bill Monroe were very, very close. They used to trade shit at bluegrass festivals. They were notorious for it. One of them would drag a mule in a trailer and trade it for 6 hams that Carter brought down. Bill would usually bring the mule, Carter would bring the hams. And Peter Rowan held that job longer than almost anybody did. And after Lester Flatt, he was the singer. He was a bluegrass boy for almost 3 years, and he was Bill's manager for part of the time. But Pete says that one year Bill brought a mule, Carter brought a bunch of hams, and Bill, they were headed to the West Coast after Bing Blossom and just deadheading out. And, Bill didn't like to stop except for fuel. And Bill, I'm hungry. Somebody, I think Richard Green was in the band then, and he said, Bill, I'm hungry. Cut you off some of the ham. He hung a ham up there, and that's what you're expected to do. Get a loaf of bread and there was ham. And there, it takes them a while to do that. You have to, old Eagle bus or a flexible, you had to lay off on the side of the road in the middle of the night when you're crossing the desert. In the daytime when you're crossing the desert, you can travel at night. So it takes them, 3 days to get to California. And I just stopped it for, mostly they're just changing drivers. They had to, when they got to the desert, they had to spend one night on the side, so it takes a couple of days. And, they're in Arizona somewhere, and been out there a couple of days, and Bill, I'm hungry. Cut you off some of the ham. He goes, Bill, the ham's got stuff growing at us. You can't hurt ham.